It's Amy Schumer's latest disaster, and I, for one, cannot wait for her to talk about her vagina, because, you know, that's what she did in her last stand-up, and then the one before that. Comedy, begin, and here she comes all happy in that, because for some reason, Netflix actually pays for this. Then again, to be fair, they've got to keep up those ESG scores somehow, or they'll go completely broke. And she says, "Hello, Paige Shields. Thanks for turning up, because if you didn't, my Netflix special would have been a complete failure." But wait a minute, she's just seen some young people at the front, so ask them, "How old are you guys?" And they say they're 27. So she says, I remember those days, when like everything was up high, because obviously now everything's saggy." And then she asks them, "Do you guys drink the alcohols? Because the kind of drinking that I do is regularly. But yesterday was my day off where I only had 5 or less drinks, so it doesn't count as actually drinking." And there was a joke in there somewhere? Maybe? Who knows? And according to the Paige Shields in the audience, it was the funniest thing all night. And they literally live in LA, which is already hilarious. But she continues saying nothing good ever comes from getting blackout drunk. Like, I've never woken up and seen I had done Pilates the night before, or cleaned a house. I just wake up with dried ice cream on my face. She's now saying that she's a big proponent of natural beauty, but she does get cosmetic surgery to look a bit bettlier, like the old face filler injections. But the last time she went to get them done, the doctor man said that there was already too much in there. I don't really get it, but now she's Chinese. Anyway, she also had Lipo, where she points out that she is so lazy she couldn't just go a little bit hungry now and again to lose the weight. She just had the major surgery instead. Which is kind of actually a respectful thing to say, She's not going to be releasing any of those weight loss videos to do in your living room, or stupid supplements to sell. Just straight up, yep, I got into surgery. So does that mean that all those Hollywood big guys can finally admit it wasn't chicken and broccoli that gave their nipples a six-pack? What's she talking about now? Funny you should ask that. She's telling everyone about her insecurities. And one time, she went to her acupuncture guy, and while getting punctured, he told her, "Do you know you have a hump?" And she was like, "What? A hump? You mean my lovely lady lumps?" Which is hilarious, because the Black Eyed Peas song came out in 2005. So literally 18 years ago. But that guy was like, "No, it's literally right there." Side-splitting comedy. Next, joke time. And she went to a dinner party once with her husband to a really rich guy's house. But there was a bit of an issue though, because that rich guy is blind. But it's all a secret. And she's like, "What the hell?" Because everyone around him acts like it's not actually happening. Although the guy is legit blind. And she says it's a good job that she was told about that, because if she wasn't, then within the first 10 minutes of meeting him, she would have said, "Are you fucking blind?" Anyway, they go into the house and the rich guy is cooking, and then he offers them a drink, which she swears is not a lie, but the guy was pouring them a drink, but was actually pouring it on the floor. Oh my god, can we get a clean up on aisle 3? I shat myself with laughter. What else is going on in Amy Schumer's life? Well, she tells everyone that she has a little boy. Just like I do, and he's called Let's Review Crap Writing Jr. But she doesn't know if she's a good parent, because she feels like she fails him too much, and says, "You know what I named my son? Well, his first name is Gene, after his dead grandma, and his middle name is Attell, after a comedian that I really, really like. And the last name is Fisher, which is my husband's last name." And if we put it all together, guys, his name was Genital Fisher. Oh, I'm such a failure for naming him that. But at least she's now publicly broadcast it, so everyone can mock her son in the future. Great parenting. But they did actually change his middle name once they realised what they had called him. It's now Fingerbang Fish Snatch. Moving to the next comedy, where she asks everyone, who here is pregnant? And would you believe it, some of those crowd birthing persons are actually pregnant. And she's like, well, at least we still have the choice to abort it in California. And seriously, she literally stood there and told a bunch of pregnant women that they should feel lucky that they can still abort the baby. Talk about a lack of self-awareness. So she says, you know, people love giving pregnant people advice, like my friend who said, oh, you should totally do prenatal yoga. But she was like, screw that, and then immediately got on the phone and booked in a C-section. And seriously, like, what was the joke there? Oh, I'm so confused. But not as confused as to why did Mark Wahlberg star in The Happening? You know, that film is literally about invisible tree aids. And all they do in that film is run away. Back to the dysentery. And Amy is now saying, you know, some people feel like they've failed when they have a C-section. But not me, though. Because if there's anything, I still have a perfect pussy. Wait a minute. Was that a vagina joke by Amy Schumer? Of course it was! And it only took literally 20 minutes. And she ain't finished saying, things still shift around down there, you know, once you start getting a little bit older. And like, when I take a bath, I literally fill up with water through me hand pocket. And oh god, that's hilarious. Please, tell me more about her vagina. But it's not all song and vagina dances though, because when she was pregos, she had a really bad morning sickness problem. And when she got diagnosed with a condition 6 months in, she was like, please help me doctor, I need to stop the sickness. But the doctor man said, we can't help you because this condition only happens to women. But for your husband, we can give him some chewable Viagra. But wait a minute, Let's Review Crap Writing. Is that meant to be a joke? You know, if it is, where's the punchline? Isn't it obvious yet? It's Amy Schumer's vagina. What's next? Oh yeah, there we go. Well, she was doing a show a few weeks back and there was a medical emergency in the audience because a guy was having a fit. And they're like, yeah, probably from all the cringe. And it was really scary, so they had to turn the lights on and she was like, we need a doctor to go help him. And there were no doctors in the audience. So she said, we need some nurses. And there were like 40 of them, but they were all absolutely hammered. Okay, moving on again. She's now telling everyone that she's a really bad sleeper. And people keep telling her, have you tried melatonin? What about CBD? But what she actually needs is heroin. Get it, guys? Punchline. You know, I actually went to a charity shop once, or a thrift store if you're American, and I found a joke book for 6 shillings and a threepence. And just one of those jokes was actually better than a whole 27 minutes of Amy Schumer. Okay, right. Here we go, guys. What vegetable is always prepared? A Brussels sprout, of course! Well, that joke actually had me giggling like a schoolgirl for about 20 minutes, so I totally bought the little book. Let's move on, because she's saying that there was a study once which said that social media is harmful to young girls. And then she saw 12-year-old girls on the way to her show, and all of them were taking selfies. And they really knew all their angles and like were snapping away and all that. But poor Amy Schumer, she's telling us that she doesn't even have a single good angle. And like, neither does her comedy, but here we are. And you know, back in her day, they never actually had the widespread camera use. Instead, they all had milk. And when they drank it, they were farting all over the place. Okay. Let's pause there, because I'm starting to think that the actual punchline is me. Like, you know, wasting my perfect Sunday evening watching Amy Schumer tell us that she drank milk and farted once. Anyway, she's still friends with her high school buddies, and she realised something recently, that they actually text each other like they're fucking. You know, when she texts her husband, it will be like, hey, let me know when you get home safe. But her girlfriends, it's totally different. Like, you know, they'll text her saying, your ass in those jeans tonight. Whoa! And it's like, okay. Well, she kind of does have a point, because, like, the last text I sent my mate was, Happy Father's Day, you double D dilf, and then a kiss emoji. And I'm not joking, that guy's a dilf. She recently met up with her friends, and they all thought it would be really funny to message their husbands saying, do you want to do the phone sex? And surprisingly, Amy Schumer's husband was the first to text back saying, fuck off. Kinda sounds like an unhealthy relationship, but then again, nothing about Amy Schumer is healthy. But her friend though, her husband called immediately, so she had to do the phone sex with him. Amy is now telling us that she's been married for 5 years, and has realised what it means to be married. Marriage is finding someone who can stand you. especially during the pandemic, when everyone was really tetchy, like, oh, you're eating food so loudly even the neighbours can hear you. And the last argument was when they went to see Top Gun starring Tom Cruise, who does all his own Scientology. But what were they arguing about? Well, she doesn't really actually say anything, but he did walk off and a little while later returned, and they moved on from the incident. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was somehow meant to be a joke. But she can't understand something though. Alec Baldwin's wife, Hilaria Baldwin, because she actually met her a few years ago and can't wrap her head around it. Hilaria came over to her and said, "Hello, I'm from Spain," with a really thick accent. And they even named their children really Spanishy things like, I don't know, taco and fajita. But that Hilaria is actually Hillary from Boston. And yeah, I actually agree with Amy on this one. It was a weird case of, like faking your ethnic background. It's not as bad as like literally telling everyone you're Native American and benefiting from it financially. Amy Schumer, surprisingly, has actually been to Spain. And her impression was like, yeah, great place. Lots of Spanish people. But that Hillary Baldwin, when she went, she was like, oh, I absolutely love it. I want to be from Spain. And all evidence points to Hillary actually meeting Alec Baldwin and pretending the entire time to be Spanish. And her husband then shot someone. But they stayed together. So her point is, neither of them give a flying fuck. The moral of the story is, find someone who can stand you. And actually, I will give the Schumer-mobile a bit of credit here. Out of all the dry turd of a show, that was the least crusty bit, It actually had a setup and a payoff. But she really does love her husband. They do the sex sometimes. And they found the best day of the week to do that like beef chapel wiener dance. It's always do it tomorrow. Because you'll be full of food and you'll say, oh, let's just do the sex tomorrow. And, oh God, we're back to the normal Schumer again. But when they do actually do the sex, her husband likes to leave the light on. But she's like, why? Why do the lights have to be on? And he says, you shouldn't be self-conscious. I think you're really beautiful. But it's actually because she doesn't want to see him. Well, that's just going to end up in divorce. So what's the next joke? Well, they do a lot of role-playing. And she always plays the same part. She role-plays being in a coma. But she loves him so much because her husband is actually on the autism spectrum. And when he got diagnosed, it really helped her family open up and talk about it. But people don't know much about autism. So when they tell him, they go, oh, does he like counting? Maybe we should drop some straws on the floor and he can gather them all together and then count them. Great joke. But it does work in his favour though, because if someone is telling a boring story, he will just walk off. Which is kind of like normal behaviour. Even before she came on stage tonight, her husband was there and she asked him, does my dress look okay? And he said, well, it's too late now. Comedy over. So what did we learn? Amy Schumer took 20 minutes to mention her vagina. Her husband is autistic. Her friends text each other. A blind man can't pour a drink. And she doesn't do the sex as often as she used to. Anything else? Well, actually, yes. Here's another joke from that book I bought from that charity shop. What wobbles as it flies? A jellycopter!
Subscribe button.
Is always right.